Greetings, ladies and melogents, and welcome to the latest edition of RE097, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called The Old Gods, written by LgFatherAnthrocite. Trenning flipped through the book carefully. The paper was old, maybe thousands of years. He could not wait to decipher the text and learn what secrets and ancient truths they contained. The vessel was strangely proportioned, taller and narrower than Perenning's people would have designed. The hull was battered and torn open. It had been drifting for centuries, if the pitting on the hull were any indication. All the coating of the hull plates, if there had ever been any, had been sandblasted off by interstellar dust. The small stasis box had been a puzzle when it was first discovered. It was the only power source on the otherwise derelict ship. After decades of study in reverse engineering, Penning's people had managed to understand that the contents of the box were essentially stuck in time. As long as the power held out, the contents were immutably frozen in the same state as when the stasis field was applied. Finally, they had powered down the stasis field and opened the box. Inside were dozens of pieces of organic matter that had been pressed into sheets. These sheets were bundled together and had been covered almost entirely with art and symbols. More decades of study followed. The original items had been replaced in stasis, and electronic copies were distributed to linguists and scholars from all over the many worlds that Prennick's people, the Genzi, occupied. All known galactic languages were checked. Some progress was made, but without some key, it was slow going. Finally, after nearly a century of study, a student from a border colony noticed that the symbols were similar to markings of an old abandoned outpost that was part of an archaeological study in his system. The ship was of human design, and the books were written in Terran. The human civilization was not active in galactic society, which is why the language was not in our database. They had incompatible biology, and while there was no hostility, cultural exchange was almost non-existent. An inquiry was made, and a suitable translation key was delivered. The humans asked if there had been any bodies in the vessel, and we informed them that it appeared empty. We sent them the documentation of the find. They thanked us for finding and reporting the lost ship. We asked if they wanted the books back. They said they appreciated the offer, but they held no significant value. A few short weeks after the key was delivered, the last of the books were translated to Genzi. Xenoanthropology students everywhere started to dig into the newly available texts. The texts were stories of gods and heroes. They told tales of sacrifice, bravery, hope, and despair. Impossible scenarios were laid out, and through logic, strength, and determination, the gods and heroes succeeded. And occasionally, despite all of this, still occasionally, they failed. The stories, along with the art, had originally accompanied them were hugely popular. They showed deep insight into the minds of creatures we barely knew existed. We had bits and pieces of stories, but nothing complete. Then inquiries made to the humans. They responded that the stories were well known to them. They were still popular amongst their kind. We asked for access to the archives. They seemed confused as to why we'd want access to such stories. We told them of how popular they were amongst the Genzi, and increasingly other species of the galaxy. They agreed on the condition that we exchange with them a database of our own literature and art. Massive data caches were exchanged. Prenning, now chief xenoanthropologist of the Genzi, carefully flipped through the pages of the original artifacts and marveled at the rich, complex stories and art. It was too bad the humans were so different biologically. If nothing else, their legend showed a deeply introspective and honorable people who would strive for justice and equality. Prennick could not wait to see more of these comic books. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.